Welcome in, everyone. We are going through Magnus Carlsen's last classical loss before Hans Niemann. And there were so many crazy moves in this game that I just could not even comprehend that I brought in reinforcements. I have US chess expert level player Brent, aka Brentino on Twitch, who is going to give you the full game analysis. Hope you enjoy. Happy learning, everyone.
Hey guys, today we're going to be covering a game from the 2018 Biel tournament. It's Mamedyarov versus Magnus. This is one of the last times that Magnus took an L, and as far as we know, beads were not involved as far as we know. But you can never be too sure, am I right? But okay, without further ado, let's get into the game. So here, G3, Mamedyarov is signaling he's going to go for this KDlearns structure, which is pretty typical, especially at the top level. And so now Carlsen has a decision to make. Is he going to go bishop g7, which he does? Or you can play the alternative d5, which turns into more of like a Grunfeld structure. But after he goes bishop g7, he's pretty much signaling he's going to go d6 and e5 or d6 and c5. Against the Catalan, c5 is the main move here. Castle, knight c6, and then e3 was played in the game, which is a little bit more offbeat. I would really see this more at like my level than I would at the top level. And so so what happens if you push d5? This is the main line, right? So knight a5, knight d2 to defend the pawn, and then the main line goes a6, but an alternative is e6. If you take e6, bishop takes, queen c2. You could take here, but you're also on this guy, so it's tricky. The better alternative is just knight c6, trying to get on these dark squares. Okay, so like let's say you play a move like b3 to defend the pawn, knight b4, queen d1, d5, and black is doing great here. And I also want to highlight that another way to play in this position is to take first, then play d5, and the point is you're going to give white the isolated pawn, and you're just going to play against that with like knight b4, e6, knight d5. You just want to blockade the Isolani, essentially. But Carlsen elects just for d5 immediately. Get some exchanges. And now here's the issue is like he didn't create the isolated pawn like he wanted to. Now white just kind of has this like d5 pawn that's going to be a thorn in black's side. Rook d8, bishop d2, knight b4, and now Mamedyarov makes a decision to just chop the knight. And I would say this position is very dynamic in the way that the knight on c4 is good, the bishop on g2 is good, defends this pawn, which is annoying for black. But the compensation that black has is black has two bishops, and possibly this pawn will be weak later in the game. Okay, so we continue now, rook c1. And we just have some moves here. And now queen e3 is a nice move played by Mamedyarov. It's multi-purpose. I always say that like when you're looking for moves, you want to find something that satisfies multiple conditions in the game. Like it's just a multi-purpose move. This move is good because it sidesteps any bishop c4 ideas, and it gets ready to play, it prepares you to play e5. So anyway, rook a6, e5, there we go, d6, intermezzo, take, another intermezzo, moves the rook. And now here, nice move, rook d1. So instead of moving the knight, we just attack the bishop, create another threat. So he's really keeping the initiative going in this game. He's doing a good job with that. Takes, and you know, I mean, we can kind of assume that this is probably not good for black, right? I believe there was a line that goes like this. Queen f4, and you're on this guy. And then there's also some kind of pin here. So anyway, back to the game. Takes c7, queen c5, again, another intermezzo, not moving the knight, just attacking the rook once again. Queen f8 to protect. And now knight e3, bishop b6. It's important to note that you can't take this pawn because of this move. And then this guy's going to hang. And if you take with the rook, then you just trade, and then you take this. So that obviously doesn't work. Simply b5. So the idea was that the threat of knight d5 controlling, you know, all these squares is just too much. So black decided just to sack the b pawn. All right, and now we have an interesting position here because we have opposite colored bishops where you would think would be drawish, because that's usually how these opposite colored bishop endgames go. But in reality, when there's major pieces on the board, specifically 2 rooks each, it could be far from it. A lot of times when there's majors on the board and it's opposite colored bishops, the side that has initiative is going to have like big initiative, because they'll have a piece that can attack a square or like a pawn or something that the other bishop can't defend. So this kind of gets like into the mud here. It's a long end game, but h5 is the first to starting this end game. G takes h5. It's worth noting that after g5, rook d7, takes here, and then f5, this position is not very pleasant for black. So with that in mind, black took on h5. f5 anyway. f6, e6, and here we go into more jargon. You can't take this rook because simply takes, check, here, and then rook e8 is the idea, and you can't defend the bishop because here, then bishop b3, that's a GG. Okay, so in light of that, he just defends. King g7, rook a8, king h6, and Carlsen actually has a fortress in this position. It's not winning quite yet for Mamedyarov, but he does have good pressure, so he's going to keep that pressure up. Bishop b4, rook b8, repeat some moves. They probably just do things like this just to gain more time because of the increment. We have an exchange of the rooks. Okay, now rook f7, rook e5, king h4. So I think Carlsen was expecting just to take here, 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 and then apparently this is like a fortress. But king h4 keeps the black king out of g5. Bishop c1. So this is actually the final losing move of the game. This position here is actually still salvageable, or holdable, I would say, for a draw. But bishop c1 is just not going to cut it because of e7. That's pretty much all she wrote. You know, like the pawn's going to promote. There's nothing you can do about that, and you're going to be losing your rook. So that was that game. Mamedyarov did a great job of outplaying Carlsen in the opening and keeping the pressure on throughout the game, especially like in this position, I would say around here. Like this is a very dynamic position. Majors on the board with opposite colored bishops. Trading out the a pawns ended up being good. Just a safer way to play, and white has just a good formation, good control of the board, whereas black is kind of just waiting back. And then that really gets highlighted here with this move h5. So I like this because this endgame is technically equal, but it just shows that even in an equal position, you can still push for a win and get players to crack under the pressure. And in this case, it happened to be Carlsen. So anyway, props to Mamedyarov. Good game all around. And if you guys like the analysis, please drop KD a follow on YouTube and stick around. There will be some links below, and we can cover more in the future.